OBE? Okay, nabasa na tanan. Kisa nag-check sa BSUEE? Daghan. Kisa dili ka sa butog Bisaya? Where you from?
Manila.
Manila. Can you understand Bisaya?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Meron nga English sa butog Bisaya. Yes. Okay, I'll try to speak in English and in Filipino or Tagalog. Katong mga Bisaya, if you're not comfortable speaking in Filipino or English, you can ask your classmate and then siya ni mong translator. Narak, narak. Okay, so kita sa itong module number 1. Kasi dili ka kita. Wala. I think makita na mas siya. Okay, so if you already read the OBE, any definition, ectoparasites. How do we define ectoparasite? Oh, volunteer. Raise your hand. Sige.
Ectoparasites are organisms that are found outside the body, which is a kind of parasite. Parasite outside the body.
So it's a parasite outside the body. So for example, I am the body, and outside the body, siya is a parasite.
No, not parasites when it infests outside the body.
So there is an infestation of the parasite sa the body, which is the host. Okay, let's define that later sa atong sasabihin ng mga slides. So under module number 1, ectoparasite, ano ba nervous? Kasi nagkailan naman sa inyong mga self? Do you know already each other or yes? Yes. Who's the newbies or not newbies? You can introduce yourself. Second year. Muna yung mga second year pa direct. Tapa, so okay lang, kung mapadayon mo, so panikamo talaga. Sige. So this is the presentation outline. We will discuss about terminologies. But basically, under module 1, we have different topics: pathology effects, evolution, morphology, motion, and development. And if you already visited BSUPE, you can see that all of these have already the topics inside and also the pre-recorded lectures. Those are previous lectures that you can read. Yeah. So in this part, so at this moment, we will discuss about terminologies. So the learning outcomes to define essential terminologies in veterinary entomology. What is entomology? Study of
Insects.
insects. Entom. Basically, entom is not really insects. It covers different organisms under kaning arthropods nga domain or class arthropoda. So we have insects, arachnids, and even maxillopods, yung petascomates or mga tangworms. Yan. Categorize the terminologies according to the biological processes involved in parasite development. So let's start with a question. What is parasitology? In your own understanding, what is parasitology? Volunteer. OG or logi is study parasito or parasite. So basically, parasitology is the study of parasites and parasitism among animals in the context of veterinary parasitology. So what is parasites and what is parasitism? So that's the next thing that we have to understand. But there are also other definitions of parasitology. We have a relationship between parasites and the hosts. Then we have to define what is a parasite, what is a host. So it is the study of morphology, life cycle, pathogenesis, diagnosis, treatment, and control of parasites, encompassing whatever definition in the first second bullets. And so maybe we need to define what is a parasite, what is parasitism, what is a host, and I assume that you already know what is morphology, life cycle, pathogenesis, diagnosis, treatment, and control. Are you done with general pathology? Yes? Tanong yes, raise your hand. Wala pa? Okay. Kinsay ka na pasar? Wala. So, dahil mga pasar. But at least you have the idea what is a morphology. How do you define morphology? Anyone? What is morphology? What is life cycle? Pathogenesis, diagnosis, treatment, and control. Volunteer. Wala, what is it? What is morphology? Yun? We have also a term called morphophysiology. Morphology is the study of structures of the parasite, which is complex. It could be morphology of a human, but we're dealing with parasites. But structures that range from mouth until the end of the parasite. It doesn't really mean anus. Yeah. Morphophysiology, it's more of a link between the morphology and the physiology of the structure. Yeah. Life cycle. The cycle of life, that is perfect. That means if you are born, that means nakipanganak ka until you grow up, and nanatapag ka until you die. That's the cycle of you. The life cycle of a med student, you start with admission tests, then you are inside of the med school, then you fail, you pass, and so forever. So that's still a cycle. Sometimes you finish it, sometimes you end somewhere. It's either you end with a degree and a license, or you end as an animal science graduate, or a graduate of HRTM, or whatever you like. But in the context of parasitology, a life cycle starts from the egg, but of course you have to discuss isa mo dyan na una, ba ay si itlog or si parasite. So starting from the egg, it develops into larva, and then into certain stages, it could be a nymph or directly to an adult. It depends, because we have life cycle that are hemimetabolous and holometabolous. Cycle until such time that it has the ability to reproduce, that means producing new larvae or new eggs, and until it dies. Pathogenesis, katong nahuman na sa pathology, the development of disease. So if you try to elaborate that, that is from the beginning, the entry of the pathogen, in this case a parasite, until that it reaches a certain point. It will be an outcome of death, an outcome of invalidation. But in pathogenesis, it's more of the process going on. If a certain parasite enters the body, what are the pathologic effects at the macroscopic and microscopic level? Then as it grows older, what are the impact to the organs? The story of pathogenesis. Diagnosis is a method of determining if a pathogen is present or if a disease is occurring. And in higher form of veterinary medicine, we can divide them into differential, suspect, and confirmatory diagnosis. When we say differential diagnosis, you have a set of common clinical signs or a pathological manifestation. Then you try to understand what are the possible diseases or pathogens causing this group of signs or syndrome or symptoms. Then if you go to confirmatory, you have a test that will say, okay, this is really the cause of a certain disease. So the person is let's say protocol. Treatment, that is giving not only the drugs but more of case management. For example, if you give fluids, that's part of the treatment protocol. If you give vitamins or whatever, protective drugs, let's say protective drugs, protective drugs. Of course, you have also some treatments directly targeting the parasites, anthelmintic treatments, antiprotozoal treatments, and many others. Control. What is control? How do we control the population from exploding? So you give condoms, you educate the people, the family, to restrain from doing the pumping actions. But then in the case of parasites, we control them by different measures so that let's say the distribution or the prevalence is tolerable in a way that the animals remain productive, and that it cannot be transmitted to humans if it's a zoonotic parasites. So that means that the parasite is already present in an area in BSU, then you just want to control further spread or transmission. However, if the parasite is not here yet, you will be doing a different measure. It's not a control, but we call it as a preventive measure. So that's the difference between prevention and control. Yes, wala. Sige, kaya screening tag, kaya na tayo mo. Okay, then we have a lot of questions. What is a parasite? What is a host? What is parasitism? Maybe we can divide them into three topics: the parasite, the host, parasitism, most host-parasite relationship. What is a parasite? According to your textbook, it's a small eukaryotic organism living on or in a larger organism called the host, causing a net detrimental effect on the host. Okay, let's dissect this statement. Anyone, a small eukaryotic organism. So there are possible options, ani. What is a eukaryotic organism? Huh? Or raise your hand if you want to come. Para makatulog si Crush. Para tayo ay recitation to express. Sige na. Asa itong attendance din? Magdala na lang inside presser. Wala pa attendance na ka-move? Wala. How do you define a eukaryote based on your biology? A what? Or raise your hand. Okay, dito ka ako ang deciphers the different voices if we are together. It should be harmonized. If you want to do it in chorale, then you have to talk among each other and say the words. What is a eukaryote? And what's the difference between a eukaryote and a prokaryote? Yes?
A eukaryote is an organism that has membrane-bound organelles and membrane-bound nucleus.
Yes, it has a nucleus, that means membrane bound, na siya cell membrane, and it has an organelle that is membrane bound. So if someone told you to, can you draw the eukaryotic cell? Sa may ganahan mo drawing sa eukaryotic cell, isang basic lang. Anyone volunteer? Chap. Ikaw na lang, buhay ka. Eukaryotic cell, how do you illustrate it? How do you differentiate eukaryotic cell from prokaryotes? Naman na micro? Micro 1? Ayan. So your eukaryotic organisms are, for example, bacteria and archaea. But we are familiar with bacteria, no? They're positive or negative. Cocci bacilli or cocobacilli. Sige. Venga. Kasi appearance sa eukaryotic cell. Illustrate na mo talaga yung quadrate. Just wala ko si joke yan. Take by the bell. Anyway, normal na sa eukaryotic cell. Living on or in a larger organism. On or in. That means living on. What is on? What's may simple English na on? Yeah, surfaces. No, on. That is correct. No. In, that means inside. A larger organism called a host. Yan. Usually in veterinary parasitology, a parasite is smaller than the host. Ay, you know, kung ako kayo siya. Hindi siya mo make sense. Yan. Then the next one is causing a net detrimental effect on the host. What is a net detrimental effect? So there are debates that parasites can also give you something. For example, like superpower. Maybe some nutrients, but that nutrients are not very essential so that you can live longer. It could have an effect positively, but most of the time, the effect of the parasite to the host is detrimental. So that is what we call as parasitism na interaction. Ano siya mo classify as parasite? Then, think about yourself. Parasite ba po? I have a small eukaryotic organism, mga 5 foot and 5 feet and lower. Qualify siguro, mga anak. Eukaryotic organism, yes, of course, because eukaryotes can be single na cell or multiple cells. Humans are under domain eukaryota, so multiple cells. Cells with nucleus and cells with organelles that sometimes bound with a membrane. Because the prokaryotes, kay nagkaladra ka sa maguda, nag-isa ka bacteria, then kurang nagkatagra ang iyang DNA. Wala siya na-enclose, it's not enclosed, or naman Tagalog o Mandarin Indian. How do you say Indian? I'm trying to do an Indian accent. Can you teach me how?
You can ask me something so that I can translate.
Ano? I'm talking about the accent. So the prokaryotic cell has DNA inside and they are scattered together. They are not enclosed in a nucleus. So ano siya prokaryotic? Yes, so first question, am I parasite? Yes, I am a eukaryotic organism. Living on or in a larger organism. Are you living on a certain person? So probably kung nasisid claims in kuya, if you're clinging to your boyfriend or girlfriend, you are likely an ectoparasite because you're living on. So stop clinging to them. Or inside the house of whom? Of your mother, of your father. Yes, you're a parasite. And are you causing a net detrimental effect to the host? Who is the host? Your parents? Are you causing a lot of trouble getting money from your parents? Isang dili na siya will make sense. Then, if you reevaluate yourself, you are likely a parasite. Yeah. So imagine that you are not the host, but the dog is the host. So in the dog, we have a lot of parasites, but let's define first. We have a parasite called the flea and the tick. Yeah. What's it about sa flea and tick? What's the difference? A flea is a laterally flattened insect. It's an insect. It has 3 pairs of legs, but wala siya wings. It has no wings. Wala mo siya wings. So how can it move from one place to the next? By? Yes, by jumping. No? Yeah. Although wala siya wings, the hind legs are quite powerful to jump from one location to the next location. So imagine if you do a ratio and proportion, if you're a flea right now, like right now, and you have this powerful legs, you can jump from BSU to, let's say, by CT. So you don't need to pay money. That is based on ratio and proportion. Yan na sila ka-powerful. Yeah, we have also the ticks. The ticks are not insects. They are part of arachnids domain or whatever class. So they are class Arachnida, subclass Acari. So they have 4 pairs of legs once they're adults, because sometimes if they are a nymph or not a nymph but a larva, okay, tulo lang ang pairs silang legs. So if you say pairs of legs, if you count them all, there are total of 4. Kung 4 pairs, o 8 mara. Then kung 3, that means 6, right? And for ticks, wala po sila wings. They don't have wings. Yan. Because they are present on or in? On. Yes, so we call them ectoparasites. And there are also parasites that are present inside the host. For example, a tapeworm called Echinococcus granulosus, which is a zoonotic tapeworm, and a parasite in the RBCs, your babesia, in dogs. So because they are inside the dogs, so they are called endoparasites. Yan. So by definition, we say ectoparasites if the parasite they live on the external surface of the host, causing infestation. Yan. So keywords infestation, and they are on the external surface of the host. Then it is endoparasite if, inside the host, then it causes infection. And all of these can be categorized as parasites based on host location. Kung asa sila located. Question. Wala.
So
Okay.
where are parasites that have both siya ecto and endo?
Parasites are both ecto and endo. Maybe certain stages, but is it possible? At sa man?
Katong sa stages mo sa pwede
Katong meiosis?
different stages mo.
Yes, possible estrus ovis, but that's part of meiosis. Yeah, that is correct. They could be ecto and endo, although they are not classified as both ecto and endo, because in general, if we talk about meiosis, more of ectoparasites, although they can cause infection inside. Yeah, that's possible. Now that means the L1 goes to the nostrils and then it can penetrate directly to the brain, for example, or it can go to other parts of the organ. Yeah. So maybe that's quite advanced po na discussion. Nakasabot na mo or wala? Nakasabot na. And do you know what is meiosis? Nakasabot. Sige, define meiosis, okay? What is meiosis? Yes.
Because meiosis causes direct damage to the skin or to the carcasses, and it is caused by mga larval stage dok.
Yes, larval stage of what group of flies?
Diphtheria.
Diphtheria, yes. Well, so one order Diphtheria. But specifically under order Diphtheria, they are more into the family Musca, mga yana, or mga califorine fly. But never mind sa anak. Kung wala pa tayo nagsukod sa pinaka-basic tissue. Yan. So again, let's go back sa concept about prokaryote and eukaryote. We said parasites are eukaryote, therefore they're under eukaryota. And we have also prokaryote under bacteria and archaea. So this is your prokaryote, then this is your eukaryota. Example of your prokaryotes are bacteria. Then for eukaryote, you have parasites. Let's say this one, protozoa. This is trypanosoma, and if you observe, it has a nucleus, and inside the nucleus is DNA. So wala siya nagkatag. If you try to check sa isa, medyo katag siya, it could be in the form of plasmid DNA or I think more of genomic DNA. Then it has also organelles that are membrane bound, especially mitochondria. Some of these things. Yeah. Never mind na lang sa structures. Later after midterm, if dili po mag-drop, then we will talk about protozoa. So going back sa parasites taxonomic classification. In parasites, we can also classify them based on taxonomy, starting from domain, then kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, and species. Yan. So sa human, how do you define the domain of human? What is the domain of human? More of domain eukaryota, kingdom, animalia, then phylum. Saan mo phylum? Ay, kasi mo mabalik. Phylum. Saan phylum? Chordata with chordates. Then class. Mammalia, because that ay mammary gland. Then order primates or primates. Then we have family, Hominidae, genus Homo, and species Equals. Yes. If you try to check this parasite, ano nga parasite? Ano siya? Ha? This is trypanosoma. Bago pa lang ganyan na discuss sa trypanosoma. Yes. So this is a trypanosoma, and if you try to determine the taxonomy of trypanosoma, again, it's under domain eukaryota. Eukarya, because it's eukaryotes. Kingdom Animalia, so the same sa atong kingdom. But different phylum, it's a phylum Euglenozoa. Class Kinetoplastea, because of the kinetoplastids. Order Trypanomastida or Trypanosomatida. Family Trypanosomatidae. Genus Trypanosoma. Species Evansite. So this is your Trypanosoma Evansite. Now, this will be the words that we'll be dealing with for the rest of the semester. So if you are not willing to do it, you can actually drop that course. So yeah. But if you are actually motivated to continue, ano yung problem with that? Oh, sige. Good. Then the next question. How about this parasite? What's this? This is your tick. Yes. Sige. Oh, domain. What's the domain? Possible domain. Eukarya. Kingdom. Animalia. Oh, phylum. Arthropoda. Class. Arachnida. Order Exodida. Although there is a superorder Parasitiformis under ticks and mites. The family Exodidae, genus Rhipicephalus, species Acinus. And if you try to check also the pattern of naming, the family has this IDAE, Idae, Trypanosomatidae, Exodidae, then order more of Ida, like Trypanosomatida and Exodida. Then, I think more na siya ang na-ay similarities features maybe. The rest, depende na lang kung sa mood sa researcher. Like, kailangan ko kung pangalan o Biscania, then they can put Biscania. Yan. Okay, next. So, how do we name a parasite? Ano lang unaon niya? That's actually a worm or bulate. Ano pa? Kato, puto, bulgas. So as easy as that, kung ako siguro nag-discover, yes, I can put it like that. But unfortunately, they were complicated names. And it's based on a Latin name. This system is called binomial nomenclature. It's a formal system of naming the species of all living organisms, including parasites. And the name is a binomial. We have scientific name or Latin name. Same na siya nga mga kanang kusip pasabot. Going back to this parasite. Oh, scientific name. Yes, that's your Epicephalus sanguineus. Then how do we write it? We know that it should be binomial, that means two names. Your Epicephalus, first name, is your generic name. It describes the genus. What is the plural of genus? Genera. Yeah, sa yung genuses. It's the first word of the scientific name should be capitalized, and it should be italicized. And then the next word is your specific name, which describes the species and use. Not capitalized, but italicized. We have also what we call as the common name. What is the common name? Yeah. So it's brown gold tick, although there are some other variations like canary tick, pan tropical tick. So I think we already know about parasites. Now let's proceed to hosts. What is a host? Asa na attendance? Okay, what is a host? Based on definition, it is a living organism, invertebrate and vertebrate, in or on which a parasite lives. Baliktad, no? So it should be a living organism. If you find a parasite in a tree, you think it's well, if living in the tree is a host. Yes, if the parasite is a parasite of the tree. So basically, it is a host of the parasite. Because sometimes, kung di na siya nagtampo dito sa punuan, hindi na siya parasite. And the host provides essential needs for the parasite and to some extent harmed by the parasite. What can you deduct based on this description? What if I remove the hosts? What will happen to the parasite? Will die? Is it a question? Are you asking me? Wala pa nakaganda. So therefore, if I remove the hosts for a certain period of time, there's a chance that the parasite will be eradicated in an area. Yeah. So assuming there is an outbreak in BSU of a certain parasites that can eat the brain and turn you into a beautiful lady and a gentleman. And you don't want to be super beautiful and handsome because there are a lot of distractions in life. Diba? Then, the only thing na mawagtan ang parasite sa anong area is to remove you, not transferring you to the next place because the parasite will just follow and find it lang. That means total culling. Yeah, but yun mong tanan. It's called mass culling. So that's one of the technique for eradication of infectious diseases. For example, African swine fever. So the system is that if a farm is infected, so all population in a certain radius are being killed or culled. And they're sacrificed. Then we put a buffer. So in that sense, the infection cannot actually wala ka na-enroll. Sure? O, yan na lang natin. Simula ka na-enroll. Maasa na ta. Balik na ta na rin. O, the host can be an invertebrate and a vertebrate host. Invertebrate, that means there's no vertebra. What is a vertebra? Your spinal cord or spinal column. Ano na mga kanang C5, mga ingana. Cervical, thoracic, lumbar. Kasi naka-remember na sa anatomy. Kung wala ka ana, malamang naa ka sa invertebrate na group sa animal. Sa palayo kong check. Maybe naa ka sa mga lidaria. Kasing bupya dahil ka. Paala lang. But the point is, the host actually can vary from different forms. It could be a vertebrate or a non-vertebrate or invertebrate. It could be a cat, a mammal, a warm-blooded animal. It could be a cold-blooded animal. In fact, you can be an arachnid, or let's say an ectoparasite with a parasite inside. So that means you're a mosquito, which is actually a parasite, and that mosquito is being parasitized by another parasite. And we don't know if that parasite parasitizing the mosquito has also a parasite parasitizing this parasite. And we don't know that the cycle continues. No? So, wala siya. Okay, so going back sa host, tinarong na ta. So we have to classify the host: definitive, intermediate, parthenic, reservoir, and vector. These are the basic characteristics of the host, or let's say groupings of a host. What is a definitive, what is intermediate, what is parthenic, what is a reservoir, what is a vector. Yan. Okay, sa katong mga ni-repeat, what is the difference between the definitive hosts and intermediate hosts? But first, let's describe definitive hosts. We define it as a host where the parasite achieves sexual maturity followed by sexual reproduction within the host. The question is, what is sexual maturity and what is sexual reproduction if you are a parasite? Now we said that if you're a parasite, although if you're a human, we know that you are sexually mature if you reach certain age, then you are producing eggs. So nagregla ka if you are let's say a female, okay? Then for male, what's the indicator kung sexually mature na ka? Probably there are enlargements of everything, including more pubic hair, right? At a certain age, no? So it's dependent on age. But in parasite, it's difficult to say kung ganun ah. So we observe under the microscope or experimentation if that parasite can produce sexual forms, either a male and a female forms, and it can also produce that forms can divide further to produce, let's say, a sperm-like organism, and in Plasmodium we call it as microgametes or microgametocytes, or an ovum-like. No? If there is a mating going on, then that stage is basically the mature form. So these are the sexual form. So the next question is the hosts where this thing happens is now your definitive hosts. Yan. So it doesn't matter if you're a mosquito, if you are a human being, a mouse, or a bug sa kalibutan, na parasite, like a culicoides, a very small fly, if there is a parasite inside that is sexually mature and capable of reproducing sexually, then you are a definitive host. You are the final host of the parasite. So, nag-rotate sa imuha, kinabuhi ang mga parasite. Mawa ka sa kalibutan, mawa ko sa parasite. Unless maka-adapt siya. Ito. Yan. So, that's the definition of a definitive host. Intermediate host is where the parasite undergoes a required developmental step and may even reproduce. But this is asexually, but does not reproduce sexually. They could multiply a lot inside the body, but that's not through sexual multiplication. For example, schizogeny, maybe a sort of budding, mga ingana nga procedures, but non-sexual, then that host where this process is going on, kay intermediate host lang siya. Isang ikaw pa ang president sa Philippines, or you are the elephant, or you are the tiger, the lion. If the parasite only develop without reaching sexual maturity, then you will be considered as host. Yeah. So if you're familiar with the cycle of Plasmodium falciparum, then the question is which one is the definitive and which one is the intermediate host? Then I think the first question is, kinsa man ang mga hosts? You have the mosquito and human. So in this case, human, and a mosquito, pilit. So a mosquito here is a parasite of a human, di ba? If you try to analyze, it's an ectoparasite of human sucking blood from the human. But of course, the mosquito is also being parasitized by another parasite, which is your Plasmodium. Yeah. In this cycle, sexual reproduction happens inside the mosquito. That means by getting the gametocyte stage, which are sexually mature stage, then further development into different forms like microgamete and macrogamete, then mating resulting to zygote, and then zygote to baby parasites, then the mosquito is the what? The definitive host. Inside the human is actually a repetitive cycle leading to expansion of parasite numbers, but in this case, more of your merozoites, schizoids, trophozoites cycle and rings undergoing schizogony. It's called an asexual blood stage. So the result would be, if it affects the red blood cells, it leads to destruction leading to anemia and many other pathology. But dapat mating na nahitabo between these parasites. Wala. More of mitotic divisions producing merozoites or some baby parasites. So your humans are your parthenic host. By definition, it is where the parasite can persist and prolong its survival, thus increasing its likelihood of transmission to the new host. However, a parasitic host is a host where the parasite does not undergo further or necessary development. So it's just inside, but it's not developing. But it's alive. Sometimes you insist, that means insisting inside the muscle. So a parthenic host is something like a safe haven for the parasite. And usually, it's a small organism that is, let's say a mammal, that is a prey of a certain predator. So once this small prey is eaten by the predator, the parasite will develop. It's like a link, no? Will develop in the predator. Now, for example, in the case of a fluke, Alaria alata, so the definitive host, let's say, is a canine. Then we have intermediate host 1 and 2, your snail, then your frogs. Then sometimes, if didn't makawin ang frogs by the definitive host, there's a chance that certain stages will go to the parthenic host, which could be your, say, rats. Yeah. So in the rat, we have the stage called mesocercardiate inside the connective tissue, and that parasite will not develop further. It will not transform into metacercaria or adult fluke, because that is not the right host. It's just a transfer host. Yeah. So once the rat is eaten by your dog, then it will start developing now, normally. Then the cycle continues na po, itlog na po siya itlog. Yeah. We also have the concept of reservoir hosts, where the host in which the parasite normally dwells and where it can be reliably maintained even when not being actively transmitted. This is more of the impact of the parasite to a certain population of hosts is not super detrimental that it could lead to death. So naga po yung survival of the hosts. I think the keywords for reservoir hosts, it's more of reserve. So there are hosts that harbors the parasite but are not affected in a severe way. Maybe there are some subclinical and a little bit of clinical manifestation, but the thing is they maintain the circulation of the parasite. Now, for example, in veterinary parasitology, we can have your pariente o yung mega, si long-tailed macaque. What is the scientific name sa long-tailed macaque? Sa Philippines, we have many long-tailed macaques here. Macaca fascicularis philippinensis. They could be a reservoir host of a plasmodium parasite called Plasmodium nodocyte. So it's a zoonotic disease that can lead to severe malaria in humans. And there are many cases in Malaysia, also sa Palawan. Kasi taga Palawan dire. Wala. And we have also a case of reservoir hosts, dogs for leishmania and phantom. Anyway, mo kabalaka sa mga terms. Balik na tayo. Ano lang. Okay, next. Time. Vector. Oh, anyone who can define a vector? In veterinary parasitology, what is a vector? Sige, basa. It's a living organism. But in veterinary parasitology, it's an arthropod. What is an arthropod again? Arthropod, you have your insects, you have your arachnids, yan. So they have jointed legs, they have segmented bodies, basically we're talking about topics under entomology. So these are arthropods. They can be affecting the animal directly by sucking blood, causing low production, and also they can serve as a vector of various diseases. We call that as vector-borne diseases. That means they can transmit the disease from one animal to the next or animal to humans. Okay. And what's pa yung nakadali? Classification of vectors. We have mechanical vector, where no development or multiplication of the parasite within or on the vector. So that means the parasite is present in the proboscis of the arthropod, and then the arthropod will bite another animal. Then, without development of the parasite inside the proboscis or the mouth of your arthropod, it will transmit the pathogen, and that arthropod becomes a mechanical vector. However, if there is a development of that certain infectious agent or parasite inside the arthropod, or there is multiplication or both, so we call it as cyclodevelopmental, propagative, and cyclopropagative transmissions, then it is likely that certain arthropod is a biological vector. Kung wala nakasabot, maybe someone could illustrate the difference. Bola! Maybe sa kuan. Grulyo, Ellen May. Raise your hand. Sige. Balik kong illustrate kung siyang kaibahan sa kuhan mechanical and biological vector. Sige, later na lang kung na pa yung time siguro. Or maybe, itong amigo na po ni Grulyo, si Girante, o Girente, and Ibarra. Baka na lang na to. O question about the hosts. Wala. Then we proceed to host-parasite relationship. Yan. So the relationship is called symbiosis, and we have 6 possible ways, but we are after benefit and harm. That means more harm than benefit. Parasitism, or more into the parasitism relationship between the host and the parasite. Yeah. Although you can check, there is mutualism, there is commensalism, neutralism, amensalism, and there is competition. Yeah. And therefore, based on host-parasite interaction, we can define their relationship as a parasite that is temporary, that means the life cycle is free living at some point and parasitic at another point. For example, your your parasitic larvae in the horse's stomach, this one is caused by this Gastrophilus fly. So this is a free living fly, while this is a parasitic form, the larva, causing meiosis. Yeah. Or a parasite could also be permanent, that means always living as a parasite, like your lice. What are the different lice in human? You have a head louse found in the head. So like the photo that you can demonstrate or illustrate on here. Then we have also body louse of different species found in the body. Wala siya katamak, no? Wala na kayo mga body louse. Ang pinaka-interesting po ng louse is the crab louse, found in crabs, found in the pubic area of a human being. Yan, kung nabot mo anak, you can demonstrate it here. Kaya sa that. Nabot yung bonus, hindi mawa. Then, a parasite could also be periodic, that means attacking the host for a short period of time. So, there is a crepuscular, there is nocturnal, and there is diurnal specific parasites. Kung makabantay mo, dagdag kayo o mosquito sa gabi, probably those are house mosquitoes or Culex pipiens. It's different in terms of appearance sa mosquito sa hapon-hapon kasi para date sa beach. Kaya grabe na kayo mamaang na mosquito, Aedes albopictus or Egypti. Ngayon, italaw niyo mo, nabili naman din siya lamok, manok naman siguro. Kaya di naman mamaak, manuhik na siya sa kasakit. Kasi nag-observe na sa beach or wala. Wala yung predators sa beach. Mga single na na. Okay, based on host requirements, it could be an obligatory parasite, facultative, and opportunistic. Obligatory, Well, the definition requires a suitable post-complete life cycle, but the strict definition is that it's completely adapted to the parasitic life. Your Sarcoptes caviae or the mange dogs, yung nag-result sa mga kagit-kagit sa dogs. Basically, this parasite is living just in dogs, no? And therefore, they're transmitted by direct contact. They cannot go outside sa iro. Hindi sila pwede mo at market para mamalit o barbecue or banana. They cannot survive that. So they are just isolated in dogs. They are obligatory parasites. But there are facultative parasites also. That means they exist as a free living or it could be a parasitic depending sa food. For example, your brain-eating protozoa, Bacteria fowleri. If you try to go to a swimming pool that's so dirty, like the swimming pool sa Mulabi Hill, and it's likely that you can catch. Well, it's not likely, no? Because based on prevalence is only in the US, but pero wala pa yung report sa Philippines. So I'm not sure. Then we have also opportunistic parasites. That means they could be part of your normal flora or they could be present in your body, but then if you are immunocompromised because naka-AIDS or HIV, isa HIV positive na rin. Then it's likely that you will get this infection. Yeah. Then we have also unusual host and localization, incidental parasite when it's occurring in an animal that is not their normal host. For example, another parasite in cattle occurring in equine horses. So the effect is a little bit different but severe. Yeah, we have also what we call as erratic parasite occurring in an organ that is not the normal habitat. For example, your entamueba, amoeba. Isa na amoebiasis dere. Usually, amoebiasis is present only in the intestine, but sometimes it can migrate to other organs like liver and lungs. In that case, they become an erratic parasite. And the impact, again, is much more severe than those living in the intestine. Sometimes you could be a carrier of amoeba. And sometimes you get it from the water sa dorm because we don't have a treating facility for water. Yeah, so I suggest you boil your water for 10 minutes before drinking or you buy water from one reliable source. Hindi lang diretso sa hydro. Yeah. We have also life cycle based on host range, monoxenous or direct life cycle, and then heteroxenous or indirect life cycle. I think this is self-explanatory. A life cycle of parasite that requires one host, that means the parasite is rotating its body without it's just cycling around a single host, while for indirect life cycle, there's a final host, there is an intermediate host. It could be two intermediate hosts. Yan. O, sige. Another question. Let's do illustration. What's the difference ng monoxenous and heteroxenous? Kani siya nga assignment, nato kang kuan. Bughaw, nasi bughaw wala accept. Pamugas. Pamugas na rin. Sige. So I think that's end. So maybe before we end, let's recall what is the parasite? 5 minutes siguro. What is the parasite? Albon. What's the parasite?
Small eukaryotic organism living on or in an organism. Hold up.
Yes, that's right. Perfect. Then, what is a binomen?
Ano?
Say,
Binomen.
banana. A little bit explanation. Alcaris. Alcaris.
Ano binomen?
Alcaris
Ano
din.
binomen? Hindi ko rin nakita.
Yeah. There's a naming system for living organisms including a parasite. So it's a scientific name. For example, sa scientific system, parasite na to be discussed.
Ay, katong binomen naman pleasure ko.
Yes, yes. What is the difference between an ectoparasite and endoparasite? Shadow. Okay,
Parasite
ito na.
located inside the external surface and go inside.
Yes, that is correct. And it causes infestation for ectoparasites and infection for endoparasites. What is a host? Ang buwan. What is a host? Kasi ang buwan. Yes, what is a host?
Is a living organism.
Basta living organism, that's the host. Yeah, actually that is correct. As long as there's a parasite, there's a host. So, review na lang to. Oh, what is the difference between the definitive and intermediate host? Oh, Andres. Sige, pa sa definitive and intermediate.
Achieves a sexual maturity. Followed by sexual reproduction.
Yes. But remember that these are hosts. So that means a living organism. Yeah. So it could be a dog. Yes, it could be a fly. But then the qualification, if they are intermediate or definitive, is based on the parasite's ability to reproduce sexually or not. Not because it's a dog, not because it's a fly or a mosquito. Yeah. What are the types of vectors? Oh, ani, could be ani. Oh, sige, how do you differentiate that? Okay na po. Harapok.
Development or modification of parasites within or under the Hindi ko na
Wala. Oh, sige, kiss ka balik mo, friend. Okay, friend? Wala din mo, friend. Wala kay friend? Oh, Asares. Sige. Sige, bahan sa kuhan. Vectors. Vectors. Mechanical and biological.
Mechanical vectors such as flies can pick up infections agents on the
Oh,
outside.
without reading your notes. Sige, bahan sa inyo. Sa imo, normally ko in your own understanding. What's the difference? Oh, sige, bakini or bachini. Oh, sige. Wala po, wala. Be careful.
can multiply.
Difference between multiple is mechanical
Mechanical transport, parasite na nagta-transport. Not necessary to the lifestyle. Not necessary to the lifestyle.
Driver, yes, Uber driver, that's correct.
Of the pathogen.
So, mechanical vector, there is no development of the parasites or the pathogen. Inside that, because a vector is an arthropod, diba? Inside the arthropod, or it could be on the arthropod. Yes. For biological vector,
biological vectors is there's development happening within the parasite then it will transfer.
yes, there is a development or there is a multiplication. That means it multiplies, well, exposed to a high number of pathogens. Development, that means from stage 1 to stage 2 of its life cycle. Yeah, that is correct. Oh, sige, I think that's it. We can now go.
Ito